Lisa Copeland, and I want to invite you to my show, The Big Sell. Are you ready to stop being a small player in a big world? Are you ready to decommoditize your business? Are you ready to stand aside from the competition? Join me every week on The Big Sell. Hey everybody, it's Lisa Copeland, and I am so excited to bring you this amazing woman today on my show. Linda Lattimore is a best-selling author, attorney, and social entrepreneur. And what a story she's got. She has been around the world. She has been general counsel for global corporations. She's seen the good, the bad, and the ugly when it comes to business and in life. But she has taken all of her experience and she has written a best-selling book, Solutionaries. And I want to bring her on right now so that you guys can meet her and see how fantastic she is. And we can talk about some real issues that are going on in the world today. Linda, are you there?
I am here. How are you?
I am great. How are you doing?
I'm doing great.
Well, thank you for showing up today. You and I've met, you and I've run in the same circle for quite a long time, and everybody says, oh my gosh, you two have to connect.
I know. I think we're kindred spirits. So
I know that. And then now that I've gotten to know you, I'm so inspired. So we are going to talk about your book, Solutionaries, but I want to talk about you first.
Okay.
I want to talk about the fact that you have been general counsel for for the largest telephone company in South America. Tell us about that. What is that like?
Well, actually, so I was general counsel of their U.S. subsidiary for the Mexican phone company, Teléfonos de México, for 15 years. And it was great. I loved it. I loved every minute of it. I actually grew up in Peru and Mexico myself, so I feel like I'm Latina. Anyway, so for me, it was great. And I got to meet all kinds of wonderful people and do very interesting work.
How were you brought into that role? I know you went to law school at St. Mary's here in San Antonio, Texas. How did you find a global position of that magnitude?
You know, I started out as a young district attorney. I spent a number of years running the white-collar crime section at the U.S. Attorney's Office as a federal prosecutor for many years, and then eventually ended up in the corporate world and found myself in a position where I was starting legal departments from scratch, smaller companies, and would step in to help them out and end up as their general counsel. And that was kind of what happened with the Telmex position. I started up helping them set up their U.S. operations and just ended up staying with them for 15 years. So loved every minute of it. Eventually ended up doing consulting work after that.
Now, okay, so, and then you and I were talking earlier. So, okay, so you have that on your resume, which is just incredible for a woman, because you had to have been 12 when you started. I mean, good grief. Gosh, I listened to your resume and I think, how could she have done all this? And just, it'd be so amazing. But the thing that really inspired me is, that you had started the WGN, which is the Women's Global Network. They are in 10 cities and 10 countries. And you're global, which is, of course, is what makes you a social entrepreneur. You are funding microloans. Your nonprofit is funding microloans for women all over the world. Will you please tell us about that?
Yeah, that was kind of, I have this they call them Linda moments. Things show up and I always say yes. I rarely say no. And that started out as a golf game. I invited 4 girlfriends to play golf, and then 20 showed up, and then 60 showed up, and then 90. And then suddenly it was a business organization in San Diego, California. And eventually people wanted to take it out and move it into other cities as branch leaders. And we found ourselves in 10 cities. And then one day I got a phone call from a woman who's actually was a nun at Incarnate Word in San Antonio. And she was working with women in Tanzania and Zambia. And she wondered if our members could help support the women in the co-ops and everything in those countries with small loans. And not just small loans, but our expertise, because we had business women in the United States. So
okay, so I want to stop you there because I want people to understand. I have been involved. I've never started one or founded one, but I have been involved with helping to fund microloans. And it's beautiful. And you and I spoke about, in different parts of the world, $20 might be enough for a woman to buy a cow or some goats. And in other countries, it's $350. But what I know from the stats is that 95% of all the microloans that are given to women entrepreneurs around the world are paid back.
Yes.
Do you agree with that?
Yes. And what's amazing about that particular financing vehicle is these people are unbanked, right? They don't have credit history. They're living in a mud hut somewhere with probably no electricity and running and water, and any cash that they have is tucked under their mattress or something, if they have a mattress, right?
Right.
And so there's no way to go check out credit history. So, they're given small cash loans and they pay them back in very small 50-cent payments maybe, right?
Right.
You see microloans in the United States, but they're generally $5,000. It's considered a small loan, and you don't see a lot of cash on the streets unless it's a loan shark somewhere, right?
Right.
There, truly the way the system is set up, there's a guy on a motorcycle that's going out in the field and loaning these small amounts of money, and they're so happy that somebody has taken an interest in them and is giving them a chance to step out of what we call the base of the pyramid and be able to scale their way up, maybe make enough money their children can get transportation to go to school, that we start seeing, and clothes maybe, that we start seeing these kids begin to get out of high school when maybe before they only got as far as a few grades in elementary, enough to maybe learn to read, right?
So what kind of businesses are these women? Give us an example. Tell us about one of the countries. Tell us a success story. It's Monday. I want to hear something great. I want to get something to pump me up.
So when I first started going over to Tanzania, what we would see is that the women, a lot of them tend to be, I'm going to say food service. I don't know why people always think that poor people craft things because we bring back jewelry. That must be what they do.
Right.
No, most of them are agriculture, right? So they're going to go buy chickens or cows. Or there was one woman I remembered, she was going around, she was buying all these chipped teacups. And what she was doing was she was making tea and taking it to the school so that the kids could have tea in the afternoon, or to some of the people, and someone else was trying to package little peanuts and stuff like that. Because it's not like they have money to go buy inventory.
Right.
They have no money, right? So they're starting with something very small, and then they'll pay that off, and then they'll get another. And remember, on a microloan, it's generally maybe 12 women that come in, and they all guarantee the other 11. That's why they work so well.
Okay.
If one of them does not pay the loan, the other 11 are going to go running after her, because the truth is they don't have any money either. So they're really on top of each other.
So it's basically a group of 12 then, and everyone co-signs for everyone else. So if 11 of them pay and the 12th one doesn't, those 11 have to make good on that loan.
And they don't have any money. So they're very good about taking very small. They start off with very small until they get a little bit of what I'm going to call credit. Then they get to take a little bit larger one, and then a little bit larger one. And you'll see when you and there's actually a video that I put out that talks about all this, if anyone's interested. You'll see that.
I want to post that video. Yes.
Yeah, I'll send it over to you. You'll see that some of them have like 7 loans. But what they'll say is, my daughter finally got out and she's going to high school now. And sometimes they've even gotten some that have gone up to, one of them was going away to university. That is so huge, right? It's huge.
You've changed the world when that happens. You've changed the world.
You change the world when they learn to read.
Yeah.
Just reading is
right.
huge, right?
So is it Tanzania that you're working in primarily right now, or?
I'm not as involved on that part of it because I find myself in a lot of other spaces right now. But it was Tanzania.
Kind of like writing a best-selling book that we'll talk about in a couple minutes.
Yeah, Tanzania, Zambia, Ghana, Mexico, Honduras, and Peru was where we had sister cities. And like I say, and then what I did was I realized one day that I thought what I needed to do was train the trainer, right? That I felt like it was kind of like the starfish story. It was very hard to throw one person back at a time, and I'd go out and see just how big the problems were. And I thought, we all need to get involved somehow, and maybe I can start training the trainers. So I started setting up programs for teen girls, teaching them about social enterprise as a vehicle for change.
Now would that be girls in the U.S. so that they could start going out and
Yes, and really what I was starting with junior and senior high school girls, they started writing about change makers on the planet, other people who are doing amazing things. And it goes in a newsletter that goes out so they can show their published authors for college applications.
Oh, that's
But it
wonderful.
opens their mind to being participants and actually helping solve problems out there, not just texting or whatever else. They get engaged. And
So how do you raise money for this nonprofit? How do you, do you guys have campaigns? Do you have certain businesses or corporations that support it?
Well, like I say, I'm going to be honest. Right now, it's pretty small because I move.
But somebody might watch this.
Yes,
blow it up.
They can reach out to me, and I would be happy to visit with anybody on this.
Okay.
I mean, there is a button on the WGN Global Fund for donating. There is a button for donating, but I want to make sure that donations are earmarked and go to some of the programs that are really beginning to move forward right now, So I would love to talk to someone else about that if they're ever interested. For sure, give me a call.
Okay, so that's one of our asks on this show, that if you're interested in social entrepreneurship, in microloans, and helping women all around the world, Linda, we can reach out to her for that.
Yes.
Now, you and I have another soul tie, I would call it, and there was a wedding this weekend.
Yes. We were both up at the crack of dawn.
Crack of dawn, like, oh my gosh, here we go.
You don't have yours, but I have mine.
I can't find it. I went up and down looking for it because in honor of our beautiful American princess, I was going to wear it all week long. So I think my husband hid it from me. I'm convinced.
Well, mine's sitting here on the dining room table, but I'm not wearing it alone. So.
I know. I feel really bad about it because, girl, I would wear it. I mean, I even posted my Princess Diana dolls. I mean, so I used to collect them from Franklin Mint, and every month I think I got a new one. It was like a subscription-based doll program. I got Jackie Kennedy, Princess Grace, and Princess Diana, and I've got just huge, and they're beautiful, gorgeous dolls, and the gowns and stuff that they wore. And anyways, I don't have room for them anymore, but I just cannot part with them. And that wedding, but I mean, you and I talked about earlier, talk about solutionaries.
Yes.
Let's talk about Meghan and Harry. Wow.
Yeah, I'm so inspired by them as part of the solutionary tribe, because it shows that, I mean, it really isn't all about money. I mean, they have plenty of money, right? But it's not, being a solutionary is not about money. It's about actually taking the initiative to do something. I mean, we've all watched the YouTube video when she was 11.
Yes,
right?
Procter and Gamble.
Exactly, the Procter and Gamble. It's not like Meghan Markle at 11 had a bunch of money, but what she had was, she saw that there was something that needed fixing, and she made the effort to go fix it. She was a solutionary at age 11, right?
Now, is solutionary a word that's in the dictionary, or is that a word that you came up with? No,
it's like, it's probably backwards. I don't know.
No, it's good. Yeah.
It's good?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I love visionaries, people who can see ahead, missionaries who are doing the work out there. And I was just really thinking about all the things that need fixing out there. That's my whole past from the microloan and all the other things, right? And I just sort of adopted the word solutionary. I thought maybe I had invented a word. But I see, I've Googled it, there's a couple of other people who've thought about it, because, there's no new ideas on the planet, right? There's always someone who's thinking of it. But I would like to be a common word. I mean, we all need to be solutionaries in our lives, because there's a lot to fix right now.
Isn't there, though? And I
love so much.
And somebody who has been as successful as you have in business and in life, to come in at this point in your life, and when you have hit the highest goals that you can hit, and then still, I mean, it kind of reminds me of Meghan Markle. It's like, but you know what? It'd be real easy to sit back, but instead you're like, no, I want to be a solutionary. There's problems to fix, and I want to change the world. Tell us where your heart for changing the world started. Were you 11? Did you write a letter to Procter and Gamble?
I'll be honest with you. I think we are all a product of our circumstances and people that have come into our lives and things that have impacted us. And, I moved to Lima, Peru when I was in kindergarten. So from the time I was very small. I
Now,
saw,
now, why did you go there? Obviously your parents were there. Were they missionaries or were they in
no,
business?
my father was in international business with a great big company
Okay.
and was running Peru and then later Mexico and then later
So
Latin.
you obviously lived very wealthy. I'm sure, very,
Well,
very well.
certainly in the time, at any rate, there was very much the haves and the have-nots, not much of a middle class. That's changing in South America now in many locations, but at the time it wasn't so much, right? And so, I mean, from the time I was small, little kids would come up with their hands out to me. My age little kids, very hungry, starving little kids.
Oh, it had to kill you.
Well, I'm not even sure at 5 that I fully understood it. I just knew I wanted to give everybody some money. And my mother, of course, at some point had to say, I just wanted to share, right, with what I had. It wasn't until actually Women's Global Network showed up for me. And like I say, there are no accidents in life. And when we created that once again, I was facing these same women with these same children. My girls were at that point now out of college, but I finally realized that I was now a lawyer with a finance and accounting background, and I could actually go help, whereas a 5-year-old couldn't help.
So did you actually feel like some of that rushing back to you, or like, in your mind's eye, were you going back there and going,
yes,
there, such a time as this, and now it is my time?
Now is my time, very much so. I had the same urge, but I also think I have, when I was 16, I went to my dad and said, I want to be a social welfare worker. And my father sent me down the street to meet Mrs. Martinez or somebody. And by the time I came back, I think they were in cahoots. I didn't want to be a social welfare worker anymore. He's
like, you're going to law school.
He had it in his head I was going to get a business and law degree,
Right.
be able to take care of myself. So they didn't present that as something all that much fun, but my heart was there. I still had that sense of wanting to help, that I'd had as a little kid. And it wasn't till later that I realized that I finally had true skill sets to actually really go do something, right? So I think that all of us probably, if we look back, and actually the first part of this book when it showed up was, we're so busy looking forward half the time that we never stop to look back and go, but what have I learned on the way in terms of my values and the things that are important to me? We pick up skills, but what's really important in my heart?
What drives us? What is our purpose? When I go out and I speak, I talk about, purpose is, what would you do if you didn't get paid or you were not recognized, right? And you're somebody who solves problems and gets paid very well to do it as an attorney. But your heart told you, it sounds like, that it was time to help solve the big problems. And you're not getting paid starting a nonprofit. In fact, you're just doing the work, you're raising the awareness, and you're distributing the money. But don't you think that, potentially that you becoming an attorney, of course, it gave you the skill set to be able to do all of that. So I find it a really interesting story, because that 5-year-old little girl who wanted to help got a job where she gets paid to help so that she could go back and help for free.
Well, and I'll tell you, we're in such an interesting time right now, and it's perfect for everything that I'm interested in. And that's the fact that now we're walking into this world of social enterprise, which means, and social entrepreneurship, corporate social responsibility for corporations. The world is waking up, although sometimes it doesn't seem like it with the political climate that we have. But the world is actually waking up and saying, it's time to be accountable. It's time to be transparent. It's time that corporations have to step into our communities and help, because the poor non-for-profits for years were anointed as the caretakers of all the problems of the world, but they don't have any money, and sometimes they don't have the skills and expertise. So the for-profits are stepping in and going, wow, it's time for us to take our place in this world of being global citizens. So for me, that's very exciting. And there's all kinds of new laws that have come in allowing corporations to create benefits corporations or B corporations to elect that as a status, which means they can have a social purpose with a for-profit making money entity. So the sectors are finally beginning to merge, and it's super exciting time to be in if you have a heart to serve, but you still want to make money.
Right. And there's nothing wrong with that. And you had said something about the political climate, but I don't know about you. This weekend, all I could think was, Why don't we have a monarchy? They all seem to get along just fine, and, I'm kind of kidding, but, it's unbelievable that, people want to take down the monarchy and say things. Well, I look at the Queen, and she has spent her entire life serving. Does she live in a big castle? Sure, but I think she'd be just as happy in a country cottage. Her heart is to serve. I think when she was 16 or 17 years old, 18 maybe, when she gave that speech, and she said, I will dedicate the rest of my life to you, to my country. And did you hear Harry and Meghan say that too? That they will spend the rest of their lives serving their country and their people, which actually encompass many countries.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think, I think sometimes people go, well, they have the money to do it. So, they have the luxury to go do that. But the truth of the matter is,
life of service is still a life of service. If you live in a castle,
is still a life of service, right? You
right.
can still come in and you can either set up I'm going to say like a Tom Shoes, you can set up a for-profit business that has some kind of social purpose component to it, or you can make sure that you have programs in your companies that are good for your employees and good for all your stakeholders and that serve the planet well. You use your resources well. I mean, there's all kinds of solutions out there, but the one thing that is not a solution is putting our head like an ostrich in the ground and not doing anything, because that serves nobody.
But I'm going to tell you, I told you earlier, I'm going to Chicago to speak tomorrow to a huge association of independent entrepreneurs. And, their fear is the disruption that's coming. And their fear is, what are they going to do? And how are they going to inspire the next generation to want to stay in this business? Because it's very much an industrial business. And, my message to them is, you better find your underlying purpose. You better find what will inspire people. Forget about you staying in business. What's going to inspire the next generation, because a lot of these are legacy businesses, to want to work in the business. And we know with this millennial and generation below that, they don't, they're not into it for the money. They want to make enough money, but they want social impact. And and you and I were speaking earlier, and I want to hit on this real quick. These young people, that have been never again. And how they've taken to the streets because they have been the victims of school shootings. And we just saw it here again in Texas. It's absolutely, it's unthinkable. And I'm so grateful that I don't have to send my kids to school every day, but I have 2 grandkids that are going to school every day. And I think about every kid out there and the terror that they must feel, sometimes walking into, and then that poor one of the young girls that was killed because, that boy, the boy tried to take her out and she said no. So, it seems like the whole world is upside down. But, these young people, like I am rooting for this generation because they're willing to stand up and say, never again, no more, and let their voice be heard. And I think they're going to push companies and corporations, whether, a lot of them are trying to do it now, but the ones that have their heads in the sands, I think that they'll be out of business in 10 years.
Oh, I agree with you 100%.
Yeah.
I am right there with you. And, I am actually trying to work with companies right now. I'm talking to a handful of them and saying, please let me come in and lend you a hand here, because honestly, let's take a look at finding ways to not just recruit, but to retain them, because it's obviously very expensive with the turnover too. But also statistics seem to be varying, but we're seeing that anywhere from a third to 50% by 2020 is going to be this millennial generation. So even though they have the heart to serve, they may not have the skill set that the older generations have. So there's this wonky period right now where we need to have information downloaded to this generation, but listen to what they have to say. There's this communication thing.
And we have to listen to them. I mean, just like these kids, when they had the marches and people, and I would tell people, you know what? I don't agree with 100% of what they're going at it with, but they're doing it. They're doing something. They're taking action. And if our generation, if we don't listen to them, to your point, coach them, guide them, help them, then what happens? Then it becomes civil disobedience because people have enough sometimes.
Well, they've had enough right now. And the thing is that this generation, and I hate to generalize them too, but they're very interested in being mentored in education.
Yes,
right?
they are.
Companies that are going to step up and offer the education and the mentoring and that sense of teamwork, and maybe bringing entrepreneurship inside a big company so they feel like they're entrepreneurs, but they're entrepreneurs.
And the social entrepreneur.
And the social piece. And so,
Love it.
I think they need to go out and like, I'm trying to work with some of them right now and say, look, let's find out what they are interested in fixing out there, because now you can sort of data mine that information, and you can come in and you can create social responsibility programs that match with the company's core competencies, so that you've got information on what the employees want to fix. You can see how your company has the core competency, and now you're going to have
finding the common enemy and then galvanizing them.
Yes.
Both sides.
Yes.
I think I'm writing a book about that too. You and I have so much in common. It's unbelievable. Okay, well, as we wrap up, I could talk to you for hours, and I know everybody could listen to you for hours. I want you to tell everybody, how can they work with you? How can they buy your book? And of course, I will post links. How can they get in touch with you?
Well, I'm easy to find. You can go to my website, which is lindalattimore.com, and reach out to me. We have 2 or 3 tracks that are going. We have the first, which is the Solutionaries, which takes individuals through a track trying to really understand kind of what they're interested in, and who their tribe is, and where they can go find something that will really make their heart sing. I have a second track that works with companies that woke up and said, I want to be a benefits corporation. I actually want to be a social enterprise, but I don't know how to do that. And so I work with that group. And then the third track is, there's a lot of companies that go, we need to have a CSR or a social responsibility program so that we can compete out in the marketplace today, because it's no longer a nice to have. How do I do that? And I have a team that will help and go work with them to do that as well.
So how about that fantastic book that is the best-selling book that I cannot wait to read?
Solutionaries.
Solutionaries. Where do we find Solutionaries?
You can find it on Amazon. So, and you just look up Linda Lattimore, you look up Solutionaries, it will pop right up, and I will send you the link on that. And so far we're doing great. It showed up as #1 bestseller in philanthropy and charity, first day.
Congratulations, well deserved.
Yes.
I mean, hey, that's the least that could happen when you're changing the world, is that your book makes #1 on Amazon. That is disrupting the world.
And I'm finding my tribe too, because so many people are reaching out to me right now saying, I want to change the world, that I have never been happier in my life finding my tribe as well.
Oh, that is awesome. Well, I am so excited. You and I are going to do big things together. You and I have talked about that. And so now we've said it out loud. We've said it to the universe, and we know that that's going to happen. I am so honored to have you on the show today. I want to wish you continued success with Solutionaries and everything you're doing. Anybody that wants to change the world.
I really love talking with you, and we've had a chance to spend a little bit of time this last week together, but I can't wait till you get back.
Yes, well, you and I will absolutely get together, because we need to brainstorm.
Yes.
It's unbelievable what you're doing, but thank you again. Everybody, I'm going to post all of the links. I'm going to post the Amazon link and Linda's website link so that you can get a hold of her. I've also tagged her on Facebook so that you can get a hold of her and talk to her, because this is her heart. And if you're a solo entrepreneur, if you're a future solo entrepreneur, if you're a corporation that knows that you need to take the next step, if you're a small company, big company, I want you to reach out to Linda, because she's got the tools, she's got the books, she's got the workshops, she's got the team that can engage and get you guys on the road to changing the world. All right, everybody, thank you very much.
Great. Thank you.
Bye-bye.